Sodium-ion batteries aren't exactly new, but something unusual is unfolding. CATL, the biggest name in lithium battery manufacturing, has made a bold declaration. Up to half the battery market could transition to sodium. That's a striking pivot from a company that built its empire on lithium. It's not just a headline, it could signal a reshuffling of the battery hierarchy. If CATL's prediction holds true, lithium might need more than just a charge, it might need a comeback. Why such confidence in sodium? For starters, sodium-ion batteries, SiBs, are getting very close to lithium-ion batteries in performance, but without the hefty price tag and limited availability of lithium. Salt, yes, plain old sodium, is abundant, cheap, and widely available. Unlike lithium, it doesn't require intensive mining operations that come with environmental and geopolitical complications. So, as companies like CATL ramp up production, it begs the question, are sodium-ion batteries finally ready to take center stage in energy storage? Or are they destined to remain in lithium's shadow, relegated to niche roles and theoretical advantages? Let's unpack this, starting with CATL's Influence. The company accounted for roughly 40% of global battery sales in 2023, a dominant position that makes any of its strategic moves highly significant. In a November 2024 Reuters interview, co-founder Robin Zeng made it clear that while the industry buzzes about solid-state batteries, CATL is doubling down on sodium-ion. Not only does he see sodium as a viable alternative, he thinks it could power half the battery market currently dominated by lithium. This isn't speculation. CATL has already commercialized a hybrid battery pack, Freevoy, that combines both lithium and sodium cells. This design helps offset sodium's lower energy density by blending it with lithium's high-performance characteristics. It's a strategic move that acknowledges sodium's weaknesses while leveraging its strengths, and CATL's not done yet. Later this year, they plan to release a second-generation sodium-ion battery, boasting over 200 watt-hours per kilogram in energy density. That's a significant jump from the first-gen's 160 watt-hours per kilogram and closes the gap with lithium-ion's top tier of around 300 watt-hours per kilogram. It's not just better, it's improving rapidly, a signal that the technology is evolving in real time. This shift isn't limited to CATL. Across the globe, battery manufacturers are investing in sodium-ion production infrastructure. They're banking on a future where sodium-based systems dominate markets from grid storage to possibly even electric vehicles, EVs. But what makes sodium-ion tech so appealing? Chemically, sodium behaves similarly to lithium, which allows manufacturers to reuse much of their lithium-ion battery design expertise. This includes nearly identical internal architectures and a round-trip efficiency that rivals lithium-ion. Yet, SiBs have lagged in energy density, which means larger and heavier batteries, hardly ideal for portable or vehicular applications. But that's changing, and the benefits of sodium extend beyond performance. Sodium is significantly more environmentally friendly to extract. It's ubiquitous in the Earth's crust and oceans, and its supply chain is less fraught with conflict or monopolistic control. This makes sodium batteries cheaper and less susceptible to global disruptions. On top of that, sodium-ion batteries handle extreme conditions better than lithium. They resist thermal runaway, a dangerous failure mode, and function better in cold weather. That's crucial for large-scale installations like solar farms or remote battery arrays, where safety and durability matter more than compactness. There's also the matter of EVS. Lithium-ion batteries are notoriously temperamental in cold climates. Ions can fail to insert properly into the anode, leading to inefficiency and even short circuits. Sodium batteries, however, hold up better under freezing conditions. CATL claims its second-gen SiBs can operate down to minus 40 degrees Celsius. That's a big deal for automakers targeting colder regions or all-weather reliability. Yet CATL isn't the only major player going big on sodium. Longtime competitor BYD is also scaling up. In fact, they've begun construction on a new gigafactory set to produce 30 gigawatt-hours of sodium-ion batteries annually by 2027. It's a major investment aimed at diversifying their storage portfolio and dropping costs significantly. BYD's bet on sodium doesn't stop at manufacturing. The company is pushing the technology into real-world applications. Their first utility-scale energy storage system using sodium batteries, the MC Cube SIB, has launched. With an output of 1,155 kilowatts and 2.3 megawatt-hours of storage, it's competitive, even if still trailing behind typical lithium-ion storage systems, which average around 5 megawatt-hours. But BYD's ambitions go further. By 2025, they aim to match the cost of LFP lithium iron phosphate batteries, and over time, they believe sodium batteries could be up to 70% cheaper. If that projection becomes reality, it would be a game changer, not just for grid storage, but for any industry reliant on cost-effective battery systems. They're not alone. Zhejiang Natron Energy has launched its own sodium-ion battery line. Phase 1 allows for 4 gigawatt-hours of annual production, with plans to expand to 20 gigawatt-hours. While there's no definitive timeline, this kind of scale signals strong industry confidence in sodium's potential. And it's not just China leading the charge. California-based Natron Energy is advancing sodium-ion battery tech in the US. Their batteries reportedly charge and discharge 10 times faster than traditional lithium-ion models and last for up to 50,000 cycles. However, there's a caveat: energy density. Early tests suggest only around 70 watt-hours per kilogram, a figure too low for EVs but acceptable for stationary use like telecoms and data centers. Despite that limitation, Natron is scaling aggressively. A 24 gigafactory is underway in North Carolina, and a smaller Michigan facility, currently the only one of its kind in the US, has already begun limited production. Full-scale shipments are expected to start this June, making Natron one of the first American companies to bring sodium batteries to market. Meanwhile, researchers are working on the next frontier. At MIT and Princeton, the Dinka Lab has developed a new organic cathode for sodium-ion batteries, using a material called TAQ, short for a much more complex chemical name. TAQ is made from common elements like carbon and nitrogen, offering an alternative to scarce and expensive metals like cobalt. Organic cathodes could enable fully metal-free batteries. That's a huge leap in terms of sustainability and cost. The big problem with organics has always been solubility. They tend to break down in electrolytes, but TAQ is reportedly insoluble, highly conductive, and comparable in performance to cobalt-based cathodes at a third of the cost. Originally designed for lithium-ion use, TAQ was adapted to sodium-ion tech over a year-long process. The breakthrough came when researchers used carbon nanotubes to bind TAQ crystals with carbon black, improving conductivity and maximizing usable material. It's still in the lab, but if commercialized, it could revolutionize both lithium and sodium battery tech. Bonus trivia: Lamborghini funded the research, so luxury automakers are already watching closely. Elsewhere in Europe, Swedish firm Northvolt made headlines with a sodium battery claiming a 160 watt-hours per kilogram energy density, solid for SIBs. They had ambitious expansion plans across Sweden, Poland, Germany, and North America. But in a surprise twist, Northvolt filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in late 2024. This is a restructuring, not liquidation. Their operations in Sweden and subsidiaries abroad are still running. Still, bankruptcy clouds confidence. Northvolt says the move unlocks $145 million in cash collateral and another $100 million in debtor-in-possession financing, but it leaves questions. Is this clever financial management or deeper trouble? Let's be clear, sodium-ion batteries aren't without hurdles. Their lower energy density remains the elephant in the room, especially for EVs. Bigger, heavier batteries mean more space and weight per mile of range. While sodium materials are cheaper, the cost per unit of energy stored is still relatively high. Another complication? The price of lithium has cratered. A few years ago, when lithium was expensive, sodium looked financially compelling. But lithium prices have dropped by about 70% due to oversupply. That price drop has weakened sodium's economic edge. For now. And sodium battery startups are still small. they haven't hit the economies of scale that could make production cheaper. In a recent Science article, Columbia University's Dan Steingart emphasized this challenge. A January 2025 Stanford study echoed the sentiment. Sodium-ion's path to cost competitiveness remains murky. There's also the inertia of existing infrastructure. Even though sodium batteries are mostly compatible with current lithium systems, large-scale switching requires time, investment, and consumer buy-in. This creates a catch-22. Sodium tech needs scale to become cheap, but it won't scale unless it's already cheap. So where does that leave sodium-ion? In a surprisingly good spot. Unlike many emerging battery technologies, SiBs aren't stuck in theoretical stages. They're being built, shipped, installed. CATL, BYD, and Natron aren't pipe dreamers. They're billion-dollar players placing real bets on a salty future. And this time, a salty outlook isn't a bad thing. Sodium-ion tech has already hit technological readiness level 9 for some grid-scale applications. In the battery world, that's as close to market-ready as it gets. Sure, there's room for skepticism, but compared to other early-stage technologies, sodium's obstacles seem a lot more manageable. And if the cost, safety, and environmental benefits continue improving, SiBs might be the missing ingredient in a more sustainable energy grid. In the end, sodium-ion batteries don't need to replace lithium completely. They just need to carve out enough use cases: stationary storage, cold weather EVs, regions with lithium scarcity to make a dent. And right now, they're doing exactly that. Let's not forget the broader implications. The shift towards sodium-ion is about more than just swapping one element for another. It's a shift in how we think about energy storage, one that could reduce our dependency on rare earth metals and decrease the environmental footprint of global electrification. The geopolitical ramifications alone are enormous. With lithium reserves concentrated in a handful of countries, nations without access have often been left out of the battery boom. Sodium changes that calculus entirely. Imagine a future where batteries aren't just cheaper and safer, but also equitably distributed. That's a scenario where emerging economies can leapfrog into renewable infrastructure without the same supply chain struggles plaguing lithium. It's also a world where innovations in sodium-ion chemistry create new economic opportunities, not just for mining giants, but for countries and startups that can process salt into power. This vision also aligns with global climate goals. Lower-cost, scalable energy storage is essential for solar and wind to reach their full potential. Without reliable batteries, these intermittent sources can't provide steady power. Sodium-ion could bridge that gap, especially in regions with abundant solar potential but limited lithium access, such as parts of Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. To get there, however, the industry needs sustained investment and innovation. Beyond the major players, smaller companies and academic labs must continue refining materials, pushing performance, and testing real-world applications. Governments can help too, through subsidies, public-private partnerships, and standards that encourage sodium adoption. Consumer perception will also matter. As sodium-ion moves from grid scale to personal electronics and vehicles, brands will need to educate users on why this new battery isn't second-rate. It's simply optimized for a different set of needs. A successful rollout will depend not only on technical metrics, but on trust and clarity. Meanwhile, lithium-ion isn't going anywhere. It still dominates where performance and compactness matter most, like smartphones, laptops, and premium EVs. And solid-state lithium batteries, while still in development, could one day deliver even better specs. But sodium doesn't need to be better than lithium across the board. It just needs to be good enough in the right places. This complementary relationship, where sodium fills the gaps lithium can't, could be the battery industry's next big chapter. And if recent moves by CATL, BYD, and Natron are any indication, that chapter is already being written. So will sodium-ion become the mainstream standard? Maybe not everywhere. But in a world hungry for more batteries, cheaper, safer, cleaner ones, it's not a stretch to say that sodium has a vital role to play. The real question isn't whether sodium-ion is the future. It's whether the future can scale fast enough to include it. For now, the salty revolution has begun. and it might just electrify the world in ways we've barely begun to imagine. Let's also consider the infrastructure transition this shift implies. Manufacturing facilities tailored for lithium-ion can't instantly pivot to sodium. Equipment, training, and supply logistics all need realignment. However, many core processes are similar enough that the transition could be smoother than introducing a radically different battery chemistry like zinc-air or magnesium-sulfur. From a policy perspective, governments have an opportunity here. By incentivizing sodium-based solutions, especially in national grid storage and public transit, they could reduce dependence on imported lithium and diversify their technological base. Already, countries like India are exploring sodium-ion as part of their energy strategy, and more could follow. On the research front, work is ongoing to close the final performance gaps. Scientists are developing new electrolytes, improving anode and cathode stability, and working on layered sodium metal oxides to increase voltage. Each small advance brings sodium-ion batteries closer to parity with lithium, and maybe one day to a leadership position. In the meantime, early deployments in buses, commercial vehicles, and stationary storage will give sodium tech the feedback and iteration it needs to mature. These pilot programs serve as the proving ground. If performance meets expectations and costs continue falling, we could see exponential growth within the decade. That's the promise. And perhaps more importantly, that's the potential. Sodium's story isn't one of sudden domination. It's a slow, steady rise. But with the right support and continued innovation, it might just reshape the future of energy storage. Salt, once dismissed as a second-string element in the battery race, is now challenging the status quo. Watch this space. The sodium age is just beginning.